Fabio Quartararo just torched Yamaha on live television, not with profanity, not with a meltdown, with facts. Cold, specific, damaging facts that completely dismantled the factory's carefully crafted PR narrative about why they're dumping him, Alex Rins, and Jack Miller at the end of this season. And the timing? 10 races left in 2026, and Yamaha's former world champion just confirmed what everyone suspected, but nobody would say out loud. The factory has abandoned ship on this year's bike entirely. Here's what Yamaha wanted you to believe. On June 30th, they released a polite press statement thanking Quartararo and Rins for their dedication and professionalism, as they announced both riders would conclude their collaboration at season's end. Classic corporate script. Make it sound mutual. Make it sound respectful. One day later, they announced Jorge Martin and AI Ogura as their all-new factory lineup for 2027 and 2028. Fresh start. New era. Championship ambitions renewed. The subtext was obvious. The current riders weren't delivering, so Yamaha upgraded. That's the version social media ran with. Quartararo's washed. Rins has struggled with machinery and injuries. Miller's past his prime. Time for new blood. And then Quartararo gave an interview on August 22nd and burned that entire narrative to the ground. They are not rookies, and we know how much we struggle. 7 words that flipped the script. He didn't stop there. He specifically named Jack Miller and Alex Rins as proven MotoGP race winners. Not former winners, not past their prime. Winners. Plural. Multiple victories across different manufacturers for Rins. Premier class wins for Miller. These aren't developmental riders learning the craft. These are seasoned professionals who know exactly what a competitive motorcycle feels like. And right now, they're fighting for 19th and 20th in the championship. That's not rider error. That's structural collapse. Look at the numbers. Fabio Quartararo, the 2021 MotoGP world champion, currently sits 14th in the standings with 55 points after 12 rounds. Jack Miller, a proven race winner, is 19th with 23 points. Alex Rins, who's won races on Suzuki and Honda machinery, is 20th with 21 points. 3 riders with a combined 21 MotoGP victories between them, all buried in the bottom third of the grid, on the same Yamaha M1 V4 machinery. So what did Quartararo reveal that Yamaha desperately didn't want anyone talking about? The factory has stopped developing the current bike, completely. Minimal technical updates for the remainder of 2026. Every engineer, every resource, every development token has been redirected to the 2027 850cc regulation reset, which means Quartararo, Rins, and Miller are expected to race 10 more rounds on a bike the factory has officially given up on. They're fighting for every point they can get. They're doing everything they can to remain competitive. And Yamaha knew this when they issued that polite farewell statement. They framed the rider departures as the conclusion of their collaboration when the actual story was that they'd already decided the 2026 project was unsalvageable and moved on. The riders became the scapegoats for a technical failure the factory refused to own publicly, until Quartararo publicly called out their technical shortcomings. Let's go back to Silverstone, August 9th. British Grand Prix. Quartararo fights his way to 12th place on a bike that's currently 294 Constructors' Championship points behind leaders Aprilia. Not a podium, not even points paying in a normal weekend. But on this Yamaha, 12th is a victory. And then post-race, the stewards strip him of that result and demote him to 16th after handing him a 16-second penalty. The reason? His onboard receiver was incorrectly configured by the team and failed to record mandatory front tire pressure data. Not a tire violation, not a riding infraction, a team setup error. Same day, same race, Alex Rins crashes out on the opening lap after a collision with Honda rider Joan Mir, gone before the race even starts. These are the conditions Quartararo is defending his teammates under. A bike that can't compete, a team making technical errors that cost results, and a factory that's publicly thanking them for their service while privately abandoning the project entirely. So how did things get this bad? Subscribe to this channel and you'll start noticing how many things like this happen right under your nose. Yamaha spent years building their identity around the inline-4 engine. It was their signature, their competitive advantage. And when Ducati, Aprilia, and KTM all went V4 and started dominating, Yamaha stuck with tradition. until 2026. That's when they officially switched to their full V4 engine platform, ditching decades of inline-4 heritage in a desperate attempt to catch the European factories. The problem? It didn't work. The new V4 was supposed to close the gap. Instead, Yamaha sits in 5th in the Constructors' Championship, 46 points behind even Honda, who are also in crisis. And here's where Yamaha made the choice that Quartararo just exposed. Instead of doubling down on fixing the 2026 V4 and giving their current riders a fighting chance, the factory looked at the calendar, saw the 850cc regulation reset arriving in 2027, and made a cold calculation. Why pour resources into a failed 2026 bike when we can start fresh next year with new regulations and new riders? That's a business decision. It's not a racing decision. And it left Quartararo, Rins, and Miller stranded on a development dead end with no support and no hope of improvement for 10 more race weekends. Quartararo's public defense of Miller and Rins was a direct accusation. By emphasizing their race-winning credentials and stating, "We know how much we struggle," he forced the paddock to ask the question Yamaha didn't want asked. If 3 proven winners are all struggling on the same bike, what does that say about the bike? The optics are brutal. Yamaha signed Jorge Martin, the current 2026 championship leader, fresh off a title fight. They signed Ai Ogura, the hottest Moto2 talent available. Both riders are arriving in 2027 on a completely new 850 cubic centimeter platform that Yamaha has already begun developing. Meanwhile, Quartararo is riding a 2026 V4 as the factory shifts the majority of its focus and development resources toward 2027. Not minor updates. 0. The development freeze is official. That means every crash, every poor result, every race where Quartararo finishes outside the points isn't a reflection of his ability. It's a reflection of Yamaha's decision to prioritize 2027 over 2026, and the factory was hoping nobody would connect those dots publicly. Quartararo connected them, on camera, in an interview that's now circulating through every MotoGP media outlet and social platform. And he did it by defending his teammates, which makes it nearly impossible for Yamaha to retaliate without looking even worse. If this is hitting different, take a second to hit like. It genuinely helps the algorithm show this to more people who need to see it. Jack Miller put it perfectly when he reflected on a potential future move to World SBK. He acknowledged the unknown every time the lights go out, while expressing realistic pride in what he's accomplished. That's a rider who knows the game. He's not blaming himself for results that are mechanically impossible. And Quartararo just gave him and Rins the public vindication Yamaha tried to deny them. Because here's what Yamaha wanted the story to be. We thanked our riders for their service, brought in new riders for development, and we're building toward 2027. Clean, professional, forward-looking. The riders exit gracefully, the factory moves on, and everyone pretends the 2026 disaster never happened. But Quartararo refused to exit gracefully. He stood in front of cameras and told the truth. The riders aren't the problem. The bike is the problem. And the factory already knows it, even as they struggle to find solutions with the current package. That's a direct public challenge to the factory, and his frustration is completely justified. Yamaha built a V4 engine to save their MotoGP program. It failed. Instead of admitting that failure publicly and supporting the riders stuck with it, they issued polite press releases and redirected blame. They let Miller and Rins get written off as riders who couldn't cut it anymore. They let Quartararo take 16-second penalties for team errors while sitting 14th in a championship he won 5 years ago. And they did all of this while privately freezing development and moving on to the next project. Quartararo just made sure that version of events didn't survive. He took the comfortable lie Yamaha was selling and replaced it with the uncomfortable truth. 3 proven winners are struggling because the bike they've been given is a troubled transitional prototype that the factory is heavily revamping. And the factory knew that when they issued those farewell statements. That's the war, Quartararo declared. Not with fists, not with shouting, with specifics. Race winner credentials, development freeze confirmations, the gap between Yamaha's PR script and the reality inside the garage. And he did it on live television where Yamaha couldn't control the narrative or bury the story in corporate speak. So what happens now? Quartararo rides out 10 more races on a bike that will never improve, then moves to Honda for 2027. Rins and Miller head to World SBK, where at least they'll have machinery worth riding. Martin and Ogura arrive at Yamaha with a new 850 cubic centimeters platform and the full weight of factory development behind them. And everyone in the paddock now knows exactly why the 2026 season fell apart. Yamaha can't erase that. They can't walk it back. Quartararo said it out loud, and the numbers back him up. 373 points behind Aprilia in the standings, 46 points behind even Honda. Struggling to find performance for the rest of the season. 3 race winners fighting for positions that don't even pay points. That's not a rider problem. That's a factory failure. And Quartararo just made sure Yamaha owns it. If any of this stuck with you, like and subscribe. There's so much more to uncover. That's not a rider problem. That's a factory failure. And Quartararo just made sure Yamaha owns it. If any of this stuck with you, like and subscribe. There's so much more to uncover.